Ever wondered why some people can quickly solve complex problems while others struggle? The answer lies in their critical thinking skills. Welcome to a world where the power of the mind is not just about knowing facts, but about assessing, dissecting, and reconstructing them. A world where critical thinking is your secret weapon. Whether you're navigating the challenges of daily life, tackling academic hurdles, or making strategic decisions at work, critical thinking is the key to unlocking potential solutions and innovative ideas. In a world, critical thinking helps us adapt. It prompts us to question the status quo, break down complex problems, and approach situations from varied perspectives. It is the cornerstone of rational decisions, clear ideas, and effective problem solving. The beauty of critical thinking is that it's a skill, not a talent. It can be honed, sharpened, and refined. So, are you ready to unlock your mind's true potential? Stay tuned as we explore 7 tips to improve your critical thinking skills. Tip number 1, question assumptions. Never take things at face value. Now you may wonder, why is that so important? Well, assumptions can be sneaky, creeping into our thought process unnoticed, and if left unchecked, they can lead us down the wrong path to incorrect conclusions. Let's say, for instance, you're doing a science experiment, you assume that the room temperature stays the same throughout your experiment, but what if it doesn't? What if there's a change in temperature that you didn't account for? That unchecked assumption could skew your results. Or consider you're in a debate. You assume your opponent's viewpoint based on their political affiliation, but what if they don't strictly adhere to party lines? That assumption could lead you to misinterpret their argument. So, always question your assumptions, investigate them, test them, don't let them lead you astray. Remember, an assumption is just that, an assumption. It needs to be tested. Tip number 2, reason through logic. Logic is the backbone of critical thinking. It's like a compass guiding you through a sea of information, helping you make sense of complex situations and leading you to the shores of sound decisions. Let's take a simple example. Imagine you're trying to figure out why your car won't start. You don't jump to conclusions and blame it on bad luck. Instead, you use logic. You check if there's enough gas, if the battery is working, or if there's a mechanical issue. Each step is a logical progression from the previous one, helping you zero in on the problem. Similarly, when you're faced with a tough question or a challenging problem, don't rush to conclusions. Take a step back, analyze the situation, and let logic guide your thought process. That is the essence of critical thinking. So next time you're faced with a problem, remember to reason through logic. Tip number 3, diversify thought. Break free from your usual thought patterns. Ever found yourself stuck in a creative rut, looping the same ideas over and over again? This is where diversifying your thought comes in handy. It's about stepping out of your comfort zone and exploring different perspectives, new ideas, and unfamiliar territories. Take the case of the humble Post-it note, for instance. It was born out of a failed attempt to create a super strong adhesive. Instead of discarding the weak adhesive, the inventors thought differently and turned it into a world-renowned office supply. Diverse thinking doesn't mean you have to invent the next Post-it note, but it does mean challenging your own ideas. It means asking what if and why not. It involves embracing the unknown and finding inspiration in the most unlikely of places. So, don't be afraid to think differently. It could lead to your next great idea. Tip number 4, reflect on personal biases. We all have them, but acknowledging them is the first step in overcoming them. Personal biases, my friends, are like invisible spectacles. They tint our view of the world, often without us even realizing it. Imagine you're looking at a painting. You may like it or dislike it based on your past experiences, personal beliefs, or cultural background. These factors influence our interpretation of the painting, right? Similarly, our biases can affect how we perceive information, people, and situations. So, how do we tackle this? First, we need to accept that biases exist within us. It's part of being human, after all. Then we need to actively identify these biases. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion, each layer revealing a deeper understanding of ourselves. Only by acknowledging and reflecting on these biases can we start to see past them. The result? Clearer, more objective thinking. Awareness of your biases helps you make more informed, fair decisions. Tip number 5, consider other perspectives. There's always more than one way to view a situation. Have you ever heard the old saying, two heads are better than one? Well, that's because different minds offer different viewpoints. When we only look at a situation from our position, we might miss out on essential details that can drastically change our understanding. Think about it like a multifaceted diamond. Each facet provides a unique view, and only by examining all of them can you appreciate the diamond's true beauty. The same applies to our thinking. By considering other perspectives, we enlarge our understanding, we challenge our assumptions, and we broaden our horizons. For instance, when discussing a controversial topic, instead of sticking with your initial stance, try to understand the other side's argument. You might not agree with it, but it's a surefire way to deepen your comprehension of the subject at hand. Remember, your perspective is just one of many. Tip number 6, educate yourself. Knowledge is power when it comes to critical thinking. We live in an age of information where a wealth of knowledge is at our fingertips. It's like having a library in your pocket. With such accessibility, there's no excuse not to broaden your horizons. Think about it this way: the more books you read, the more tools you have in your toolbox. Each book, each article, each documentary you consume adds another perspective, another viewpoint, another strand to the web of your understanding. This rich tapestry of knowledge enhances your ability to critically evaluate the world around you. You don't have to limit yourself to academic texts or scholarly articles. Novels, biographies, podcasts, even conversations with people of diverse backgrounds can provide valuable insights. These different sources of knowledge will enrich your thinking and make you a more robust, critical thinker. So, keep learning, your brain will thank you. And finally, tip number 7, practice patience. Critical thinking isn't about making quick decisions. It's about taking a moment to fully understand the situation, to absorb all the information available, and to consider the implications of each possible course of action. Think about a chess player, for instance. They don't rush to move their pieces. They sit, they ponder, they visualize the board several moves ahead. They practice patience, and it often pays off in victory. Similarly, a scientist doesn't rush through an experiment. They take their time, meticulously recording observations and carefully analyzing data. In the same way, when you're faced with a decision, whether it's choosing a college major, making a business proposal, or even deciding where to go for dinner, don't rush. Allow yourself the time to consider all the variables, to understand all the implications. Remember, good thinking doesn't always come quickly. So take your time. Good thinking requires patience. So, there you have it, 7 tips to improve your critical thinking skills. First, we learned about questioning assumptions. This is the cornerstone of critical thinking. It's about challenging what we think we know and asking why. It's about digging deeper, interrogating ideas, and not taking things at face value. Next, we explored reasoning through logic. Critical thinking is about connecting the dots in a meaningful, logical way. It's about seeing the patterns, making sense of the information, and drawing reasoned conclusions. Thirdly, we discussed diversifying thought. This is about broadening our perspective, considering different viewpoints, and thinking outside the box. It's about embracing the complexity of the world and not being confined by our own limited perspective. Our 4th tip was about reflecting on personal biases. We all have our biases, our preconceived notions, and our prejudices. These can cloud our judgment and skew our thinking. By acknowledging and reflecting on these biases, we can strive to overcome them and think more critically. The 5th tip was considering other perspectives. This is closely related to diversifying thought. It's about stepping into other people's shoes, understanding their viewpoint, and considering how they see the world. Next, we talked about educating yourself. Knowledge is power, and the more we know, the better we can think critically. This is about lifelong learning, about being curious, and about constantly seeking to increase our understanding. Our final tip was practicing patience. Critical thinking is not a race. It's a process. It's about taking the time to think things through, to consider all the angles, and to make reasoned, well-thought-out decisions. The importance of these 7 tips in enhancing critical thinking cannot be overstated. They are not just skills for the classroom or the workplace, but life skills that can help us navigate the complexities of the world with clarity, wisdom, and discernment. Remember, critical thinking is a skill. It takes practice. So start today and see how these tips can transform your thinking process. If you found this content valuable, give the video a like and subscribe to our channel for more informative content in the future.